My name is Kyle Martin. I'm the lead artist on Plushy Night as well as an environment artist. Throughout Plushy Night's development, I've taken on the role of an art lead, but also as a regular artist on the team. So as a lead, I've scheduled and managed tasks for the artist and basically managing the dependencies between the art team and the production and programming teams. As a regular artist on the team, I've worked a lot on environment modeling, and that's let me create a lot of the set pieces for the game. In addition to that, I've worked on asset implementation. I've worked a lot in the game engine, which is basically grabbing all the objects and models that the other artists create, bringing it into the engine and placing them and making sure that they work well. As an art lead, I was able to oversee pretty much every aspect of the game just by managing the other artists on the team and seeing what they're working on. And everyone on the art team has their own expertise, and just by overseeing their work, I was able to learn a lot from everyone on the team. So when it came down to crunch time, we had these gigantic polish lists of things that needed to be done. And what I tried to do as a lead throughout the project was give everyone work that would fit their expertise and fit what they wanted to do. When it came to that polish list, sometimes the areas were a little unbalanced, so there was too much of work for that one person or two people and their expertise to do. So what I did was use the skills I gained from the rest of my teammates just by watching over them, and then contributed to the areas of the game on the polish list. So I was able to be there for the members of my team and back them up, and if they had too much on their plate, I was able to use the skills I gained from them and take some of the load off them and put it on me. A lot of work went into making the cutscenes, and it was a lot of work that was actually a different skill set from making the game itself because they're pre-rendered, which means they're not rendered real time, so it's not working a game engine. So to basically get the cutscenes done, we had to bring our assets into our 3D modeling program and set up completely new shaders and textures and lighting for it, and then render it out. And rendering it out basically means that you have to render out frame by frame images that you essentially compile into a movie. There's 30 frames per second, and then our cutscenes are about 6 minutes. That's a lot of frames, and each frame took anywhere from 1 minute to 20 minutes to render. So the hardest part was getting the cutscenes to a render time that was manageable and still keeping the great look that we have of them. One of the problems with the cutscenes that we had to solve was the long render times. Using one computer and rendering out 6 minutes of video would have taken way too long, not as much time as we had. So we had to figure out a way to reduce that time. One way we did, we split up the scenes into a lot of smaller chunks, and that let us spread them out over multiple computers so we could have 4 or 5 computers rendering at once. And that allowed us to get all the cutscenes done a lot quicker than we would have normally. We reached a point on Plushy Night probably a month and a half ago, where our frame rate was just atrocious, and we had to figure out how to solve that problem. It was part of a collaboration between the art team and the design team and the programming team to try to figure out the best way to do that. On the art side, it involved essentially me poring over Vision has a resource viewer that lets you know which textures and which animations and which meshes are taking up the most memory, as well as sorting through everything in the actual engine, figuring out if there's objects we don't need, things that are taking up a lot more space than another object, and essentially figuring out the best way to get the most bang for your buck out of your visuals, but still keeping a playable game. My goal is to be an environment artist. I love the environments in games, and I love bringing worlds to life, and I love bringing out the type of story that comes out in a game, typically from characters, and adding that to the environments of the game, and making sure the world tells as much of a story as the characters do. So what I'm proudest of is that I've been able to contribute to the art in the game as much as I've been able to contribute to my role as a lead. I've been the primary artist on 4 of the environment set pieces of the game, which are the exterior of the church, which you see in the opening cutscene, the interior of the church, which you see in the final cutscene, Chiron's Lair where you fight the boss, and the Reflection Cave, which is the last place you visit in the game. As a lead, I learned a lot from this project. I came into the project unsure if I could live up to my own expectations and the expectations of others. I was also a little unorganized, to be completely honest. But coming out of this project, I've really grown, and I'm a completely different person. I'm now incredibly organized, very comfortable with my ability to lead myself and others to success on a project. As an artist on the game, I've learned just as much, if not more. What I think I've learned most is probably my ability to quickly adapt to any new techniques or new software or any type of change in a project. As we've been working on Plushy Night, things changed almost on a weekly basis, especially in the beginning in terms of the story, the flow of the game, the level. Everything was just constantly changing in the beginning. and I really learned to adapt to things like that.